Hey people, here's another episode with another highlighted case wrapped in some underlining questions and controversies that I am here to solve here online through my supernatural and psychic capabilities here on the Magic House channel. Please like and subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon for quick and instant notifications on new cases. Trial updates here on the channel. Let's begin.
Developing story out of Texas, something of a mystery. New information is out tonight in the death of Sandra Bland. Now, as Brandy Hitt reports, questions are being asked about whether police could be at fault in this woman's death behind bars.
This surveillance video captures the moment jail personnel realized Sandra Bland was dead, found hanging in her cell just 3 days after her controversial arrest. The 28-year-old activist pulled over for failing to signal a lane change. And when forced to get out of her car, the arresting officer writes in his report, "Bland began swinging her elbows at me and then kicked my right leg in the shin."
She just said that she really felt that her arm had been fractured.
But the jail claims while you can't see Bland's cell in this video, her health was intact.
There were no reported injuries by Miss Bland, and no additional medical treatment was requested.
At 7:55 a.m., officers claim Bland asked to make a phone call. That call was never made. Then at 8:58, you see a guard discover Bland. They say a trash bag was wrapped around her neck.
Wasn't much of anything there, so of course that still was lingering questions.
Texas Rangers are leading the investigation with the help of the FBI, but civil rights leaders want more.
I'm here to tell you that discrimination is alive and well in Waller County. And an investigation has to be done by the Department of Justice.
The district attorney's office says it's too early to determine if this was murder or suicide, but it's treating this case like a murder investigation. In the meantime, Sandra Bland's family is awaiting its own independent autopsy. In Los Angeles, Brandy Hitt, ABC 7.
Sandra Bland's autopsy shows wounds are consistent with suicide. Results from an official autopsy of the body of Sandra Bland, who was found hanging in her jail cell 2 days after her arrest in Texas on July 10th, have been revealed, with officials stating that it appears Bland's death was the result of suicide, adding that there was no indication that she was attacked. Officials say the results from the autopsy on the body of Sandra Bland are consistent with suicide by hanging herself with a plastic bag that was in her jail cell. The assistant district attorney said that Bland had only a single wound around her neck, which came from the bag used in the hanging. Meanwhile, the lack of marks on her hands indicates she was not attacked. 30 cuts that were found on her left forearm were at least 2 weeks old, which predated her arrest. Drug tests also revealed marijuana in her system. Minor abrasions that were found on Bland's wrists were consistent with struggling against handcuffs during her arrest. The assistant district attorney said violent, involuntary attacks usually lead to more wounds, including broken bones. However, Bland's autopsy did not reveal this was the case. Bland's family has paid for a second independent autopsy, but the results of that examination have not yet been released. Meanwhile, there has been no shortage of outrage in the public at the autopsy findings, with people expressing disbelief that Sandra Bland would have taken her own life. Many are voicing their suspicions regarding the circumstances of Bland's death. Even those who do believe the results of the autopsy consider the police to be at fault for not giving Bland the care she needed.
July 13th, 2015, 28-year-old black woman Sandra Bland's body was found hanging in a Waller County jail cell, with her cause of death being ruled as a hanging suicide, with 2 autopsy ruling reporting stating the complete opposite on markings surrounding around the neck, questionable evidence on the way the body was found, a faulty camera, and the possibility of a staged suicide scene in a murder-homicide cover-up scheme. Let's tell her story.
Born on February 7, 1987, in Naperville, Illinois, she grew up one of 5 sisters in a family that valued faith, resilience, and speaking truth even when it stung. She was sharp-tongued when she needed to be, with a smile that could light a room and a laugh that came from her belly. She loved gospel music, Sunday dinners, and debating anything from politics to pop culture with friends and family. But what defined Sandra most was her conviction She believed deeply in justice, in the power of Black voices to change systems built to silence them. She'd post videos online, Sandy Speaks, she called them, where she'd talk about police brutality, racial inequality, and the need for young people to stand up and fight for something bigger than themselves. In one of those videos, she said, "Being a Black person in America is very, very hard. Show me in history where all lives mattered."
It was July 10, 2015, a Friday. Hot, quiet. Sandra Bland had just made it to Texas. A new job, a new chapter. She was 28, college graduate, activist, hopeful. By Monday morning, she was dead in a jail cell. Official cause of death, suicide. But if that's true, why were her clothes different? Why were there gaps in the surveillance video? Why was the jail silent when her screams echoed in her last known voicemail? This wasn't a tragic accident. It was a storm of power, silence, and vanishing evidence. And it started with a lane change. Sandra Bland had just arrived in Prairie View, Texas. She'd driven over 1,000 miles from Illinois. She was excited. She was tired. She had just landed a job at her alma mater, Prairie View A&M. She ran a YouTube series called Sandy Speaks. She talked about civil rights, police accountability, mental health. Then, just a day later, she was pulled over for failing to signal a lane change. Dashcam footage shows the moment. She's calm, confused. Then the officer, Brian Insinia, escalates. Within minutes, Sandra is yanked from her car, thrown to the ground, and arrested. A minor traffic infraction. Zero criminal record. No threat. Yet somehow, handcuffs. Jail. A mugshot. Why? Insinia claimed she was combative. The tape showed otherwise. He asked her to put out her cigarette. She asked, why? He shouted, "Get out of the car." When she hesitated, he drew his taser. "I will light you up." Sandra was booked into Waller County Jail. No one came to get her. She called a friend. Said she couldn't afford the $500 bond. She sounded shaken, frustrated, but alive, lucid, hopeful. She told the friend, "They're not going to break me." Then, nothing. 3 days later, Sandra Bland was found hanging in her cell with a plastic garbage bag. The official ruling? Suicide. But this is where the story stops making sense. Let's break down the inconsistencies. Because they're not just odd. They're impossible to ignore. Pushpin surveillance footage. Waller County released jail video, but crucial portions were missing. At one point, Sandra's hallway appears to loop, like a glitch in the Matrix. No officer is seen entering or exiting her cell the morning she was found. Pushpin the mugshot. Experts noticed something was off. Her clothes appeared the same as during booking, but she's lying on a flat surface. Her eyes half open. Her face blank. Some suggested it looked more like a photo of a dead body than a booking shot. Pushpin the trash bag. Plastic garbage bags were not supposed to be in cells. And Sandra was placed on suicide watch when she arrived. So why wasn't the bag removed? Pushpin phone calls. She made multiple calls. But jail logs only list one. Voicemail recordings show she was clear-headed and asking for help. She never mentioned being suicidal. Before hashtags. Before protests. Before court cases. Sandra was a daughter. A sister. A fighter. A voice. She spoke out against police brutality, long before it became national conversation. She was a former cheerleader. A sharp debater. She once wrote, "I'm here to change history." Her series Sandy Speaks talked directly to the camera. If we want to see change, we have to be the change. In her own words, she wanted to wake people up. She never sounded like someone ready to give up. So what really happened in that cell? After Sandra's death, the Texas Department of Public Safety fired Insinia. He said Sandra was combative. The dashcam showed she was mostly seated, asking questions. He said he feared for his safety. She was unarmed. Alone. 5 feet 8 inches, 140 pounds. Insinia was charged with perjury, for lying in his report. But the charge was later dropped, in exchange for him never working in law enforcement again. No jail time. No accountability. Waller County Jail had failed multiple inspections before Sandra's arrest. They had no mental health protocols. No video documentation of cell checks. Officers falsified logs, claiming they checked Sandra every hour. Security footage shows that's not true. Sandra's family sued the county. They settled for $1.9 million. But no one was fired. No one was convicted. No law changed immediately. To this day, Sandra's death is still ruled a suicide. In 2019, 4 years later, investigative journalists received a tip. A cell phone video of the arrest, filmed by Sandra herself. It had never been released. Never mentioned in court. And it changed everything. In her own voice, we hear her filming the officer. We hear her calmly asking why she's being detained. And we hear Insignia ordering her to stop filming, even though it was her legal right. "You're about to break my wrist." This video had been withheld from the public. By the Texas Department of Public Safety. Why? What else didn't they show us? Sandra's last call was never played at trial. She says, in a quiet voice, "I don't know what's going on, but I'm scared." Then, silence. When they found her body, the report said no foul play. But a forensics expert hired by her family noted no bruising on her neck. No defensive wounds. No evidence she stood on anything to hang herself. And the trash bag? The one she allegedly used? It was still available to other inmates, even after her death. No protocol changed. Until the headlines made it impossible to look away. Here's what we know. Sandra Bland didn't deserve to die in that jail. She wasn't suicidal. She had plans. She was targeted. She was silenced. But this story is far from over. Because what happened after her death only deepens the mystery. Emails deleted. Logs falsified. Witnesses intimidated. We'll uncover the evidence that went missing, the people who stayed quiet, and the pattern of deaths in Texas jails that no one wants to talk about. Because Sandra Bland's story wasn't the first. And if nothing changes, she won't be the last. Sandra Bland died alone in a Texas jail cell. They called it suicide. But the more you look, the more things unravel. Her own phone recorded the arrest, but police hid the footage. Jail logs were altered. Surveillance footage glitched. And key evidence never made it to court. This isn't just about Sandra. It's about how the system responded, and who it was built to silence. What if everything they told us was wrong? Let's go deeper. It's time, y'all. It's time to stop sitting. It's time to start moving. It's time to wake up. She called it Sandy Speaks. A personal mission. A movement. Sandra Bland didn't just speak about justice, she lived it. She marched, debated, uplifted. She believed in changing the narrative from the inside. Now, her voice is gone. But her message refuses to die. Just days before the arrest, Sandra was beaming. She'd been offered a job at Prairie View A&M. Her dream school. Her second home. She packed up her life in Illinois, made the long drive to Texas, and was ready for a new beginning. Graduation footage shows her laughing with friends. Holding her degree. Wearing her signature natural hair like a crown. Then, just 72 hours later, her mother was identifying her body. What happened inside Waller County Jail? The dashcam video went viral. And nothing about it felt right. Officer Brian Insignia claimed she was hostile. Uncooperative. But we saw the footage. She asked why she was being pulled over. She refused to extinguish her cigarette, in her own car. She questioned his authority. That was enough. "Get out of the car. I will light you up." He dragged her out. Slammed her to the ground. Knee in her back. Her voice trembled, but didn't break. "You just slammed my head into the ground. Do you not even care?" The whole world watched. Was this really about a lane change? After the arrest, Sandra was taken to Waller County Jail. It should have been simple. She had no prior charges. Bail was just $500. She should have been out within hours. Instead, she sat for 3 days. Jail records said she was monitored. Federation checked on hourly. But the jail's own cameras told a different story. And when she was found, hanging by a plastic bag, nothing added up. Her clothes were different. Her hair appeared disheveled. There was no note. And she had just left a voicemail. "I'm still just at a loss for words, honestly. I'm ready to get out of here." Does that sound like someone who planned to take her own life? This was when everything cracked open. Investigators began reviewing the jail footage. Every angle. Every timestamp. What they found? No entry camera loops. No entry time jumps. No entry long stretches where nothing happened. At 7:14 a.m., Sandra is reportedly alive. By 9:06 a.m., she's dead. But no camera captured a guard entering or exiting her cell. Waller County claimed the video system malfunctioned. That footage was lost. But why did it only glitch around her cell? Why did it